starting with an Illustrator file that has a height of 8.2 inches, which is the width of the label stock. This file has two layers. The top layer is the die line, the bottom is the art. Print-to-cut registration is accomplished via the SmartMark optical registration system. On the die layer, and I'll hide the art layer so you can see this, a 1-point 100% magenta rule defines the top and right edge of the SmartMark. It registers with a 100% black box on the art layer. On the die line layer, I've drawn three guides to help with positioning of the art and die line. One is a vertical rule that lines up with the left edge of the SmartMark. There's a second horizontal rule that lines up with the bottom, and 1/4 inch under that is another horizontal guide. These two guides will determine the positioning of the final die line. Alright, you're going to paste the art onto the art layer, so I will usually lock my die line layer and select the art to make sure I'm pasting onto the correct layer. I'm doing a Westview Wildcat label. It's 3 inches by 3 inches. You can, of course, resize your art and reposition it based on your final label size and shape. Alright, so I'm happy with this size for this example. So I'm going to lock my art layer and go to my die line layer. The label finisher works best with slightly rounded corners because it's easier to strip. So instead of an absolute square, I'm going to do a slightly rounded square, giving it a 0.005 corner radius. Alright, and I need to make sure there's no fill, of course, so you can see the art. The stroke, just like the optical bar, needs to be 100% magenta with a stroke of 1 point. And you need to position it so it lines up with your vertical and horizontal guide. Looks like my art's not quite centered, so I'm going to lock my die line. You can help by drawing guides. Right now I'm just going to adjust the positioning optically and nudge it over a bit. You're not limited to a simple shape for a die line. This is an example of the same logo with a much more creative die. As you can see in that previous file, there was room for a second label on the sheet. So if you want to do a duplicate label, make sure both layers are unlocked. Select your art and your die line, hold down the Option key and drag a second label below, or third. I mean, it depends on the size of your label. Last, I'll adjust my file width. We don't need all this air on this size, so go to Document Setup, Edit Artboards. You can see the current artboard is defined by the dashed line. So I'm going to pull in the left-hand side of my file to eliminate all the extra air and let my labels fit pretty comfortably. Hit the Selection key and you're done. Before you send to print, hide your die layer and save it as an EPS file. If you plan to print your label in special media, such as fluorescent or metallic stock, a different SmartMark is needed. That will be addressed in another video.